Now, why would he need to appear to oppose any future motion? What motion did we say was coming up here that Liebowitz has an interest in not being on the hook for?
Boy, that's a really hard question. I got to think about it.
This is a community-supported legal education channel. Find out how you can support our mission at the links in the description below.
Yeah, I was kind of stoked when Dan said I could talk about some of the silly stuff, because I know your fans are going to eat it up.
Great, because I want to hear all about that. That's actually probably the more interesting part of the whole thing.
Oh, probably, yeah.
Because the basics of the case are rather simple. Can you talk a little bit about the very basics of what happened? Because you made a very basic use of a photograph, right?
Yeah. So I think if you don't mind, I'm going to back up and just tell a little bit about the company and the situation so that it makes sense, why we shared it in the first place. So, so my mom was an 8th grade English teacher, public school 8th grade English teacher for 34 years. She taught for 10 years in California, 20 in Alaska, which is where I grew up, and then 4 here in North Carolina. And in 1981, she started writing her own grammar worksheets, kind of out of necessity. And and over the years tweaked it. She was like that skills and knowledge 8th grade English teacher, the one that didn't care whether you journaled about your feelings, but she was going to teach you to write the 5-paragraph essay and where to put your commas and right.
Okay.
So we jokingly
us lawyers appreciate good grammar.
Oh yeah. Yes, court cases have been won on a comma. So in 1996, so 15 years later, it was a cohesive program that she called Analytical Grammar, and she was contacted by a private school in Anchorage and sold her first license to them. They still use it, and heard about this whole homeschool thing and heard that homeschoolers were big proponents of teaching formal grammar, which one of the reasons my mom wrote her own stuff was that was kind of at the height of the whole language movement where, you don't need to teach grammar to have good writers, creative spelling is fine, that kind of stuff. So,
ooh.
Oh God. Yeah.
That's
another whole.
Is that before the age of the internet? Or are we talking about specifically like the age of the internet when people just started spelling things however they wanted to?
Yeah, right. No, it was, I think, late 70s, early 80s. That's when they stopped teaching phonics.
These things go in waves.
Stopped teaching formal grammar. Yeah, exactly. So, 96, she started selling it just as a little side business. So I was in college then, and then in 98, I went active duty as an Air Force officer, spent 4 years active duty. And by that time, my mom had retired to North Carolina, and I was married and wanted to have kids, and I wanted to be by my mom. And so I separated active duty and went reserve, and we moved here to Raleigh so I could be by my mommy. She and I were always very, very, very close.
Excellent.
Yeah,
I agree. Moms are great. A good mom is a great mom. Yeah.
Especially my mom. She was awesome. So I started helping her with the company when we moved here. I used the GI Bill to get my teaching credential, and I taught school here for a couple of years. But in 2008, I was pregnant with our second kid, and the company was doing well enough to pay me a full-time salary to come home and run the company, and that way I could be down with my kids. So meanwhile, the company Analytical Grammar was doing pretty well. Again, still a small side business, but chugging right along. But that timing of when I came home to run the company was sort of good in a bad, bittersweet sort of way. But that's when my mother was diagnosed with leiomyosarcoma. It's a very rare soft tissue cancer. Only about 700 people in the US are diagnosed with it every year.
Oh, wow.
And it was stage 4. It had already spread all over her body when it was diagnosed. So the fact that I could run the company and watch my kids, because she wasn't well enough to do it at that point, while, my husband was at work, kind of worked out well. So she actually fought it very valiantly for 7 years, but she died in 2015.
Okay.
And by that time, I was the 100% owner of the company. And it's not like I went to school for business. Like I was learning this entrepreneurial thing on my own.
Don't I know it? They don't teach you anything about business in law school either.
No. Well, they didn't for Mr. Leibowitz's law school either, apparently. But so I, by that point, I'm running the company full time. And in December of 2017, this gentleman named Matthew Bradley, who likes to take funny pictures or post funny puns and things to his Facebook page, took a photo of 5 spirit levels with blue painter's tape on them and wrote the word wrong on all of them. So it was a visual pun, wrong on so many levels.
Yeah, that's very clever.
It is. It's very clever. And it went viral, understandably. He posted it to his personal Facebook page on a public setting. When he first posted it, there was no writing on the photo. It was just the picture. And the caption only said, "This is wrong on so many levels." That's all it said. But it did. It went viral. Like, I think within a week, it was over 10,000 shares. And it was everywhere. Now, meanwhile, over these few years, I had been growing the Analytical Grammar Facebook page. I had a marketing manager, a gal I paid part-time to run it. And she ran it so well that it sort of became this beast that ate Cleveland. It was very entertaining, grammar lessons and tattoo fails and puns and jokes. And so I think at the time we shared the photo, it was 650,000 followers, something like that. Yeah, it's 850,000 now.
It's a high quality problem to have.
Well, yes and no, because most of those people weren't people who were going to drop $100 on grammar curriculum. They were just grammar nerds who, and I say that with a great deal of love because I'm a grammar nerd, but they found it entertaining, but they weren't going to be buying stuff from me. So I was paying Melissa, my marketing manager, to entertain hundreds of thousands of people for free. And by that time, the company was actually struggling a little bit. The sales were down. There'd been debt to pay for some of the stuff with mom. I actually hadn't taken a salary. I stopped taking a salary from the company at the end of 2016. So I wasn't even getting paid.
Oh.
When I was sued. Yeah. So about a week and a half after Mr. Bradley shared it, somebody, and this happened all the time, and we had very loyal fans, and whenever they would see something that they thought we would like, they would send it to us via Facebook instant message. And so we got a Facebook instant message with this image attached to it. It had been downloaded and attached, so it wasn't a link back to the original post. So Melissa would usually do a reverse image search real quick to see if she could find somebody it belonged to. Which she did then, and it was everywhere. It was on Reddit and Tumblr and Twitter, and you go to Google image searches, and it was just all the same picture. Yeah. She's like, all right. So she shared it with the caption, "Wrong on so many levels," because why? Of course, that's the caption you would put on that picture. And it went viral off our page too, big time. All right. So that's December 2017. Fast forward to the summer of 2019. And actually, the first time I heard that I had been sued was from a Triangle Business Journal reporter who emailed me. I guess she'd read the docket or something. And I was like, "I don't know what you're talking about. Can you send me a copy of what you're looking at?" I don't know why, but it took weeks for me to get it in the mail. But anyway, so she sent me a copy of it. And so here I am sitting at my desk, wondering what to do, because I've just been no other contact. I was never sent any kind of message, "Hey, take the picture down. Hey, put my
no warning."
Nothing.
Yeah.
No communication.
I hear this often from what we call copyright trolls.
Yes.
They don't want you to take it down. They want to get their money.
Right.
Why they would go straight to a lawsuit without making some kind of at least initial contact and demand, that's weird to me.
Well, and as a publisher, I mean, I had been publishing this material for years, and I had had a couple of instances of infringement, like a lady who photocopied my book and tried to sell it on eBay.
Yeah, like genuine,
so
sincere.
I contacted her and I said, "This is illegal.
Claims of infringement. Yeah.
Don't do it. If I see you on here again, then we're going to have an issue." And she took it down, and that was it. I'm not going to file a federal lawsuit against some homeschool mom who's trying to make $25 off photocopying my book. Yeah. It's dumb. So anyway.
Still amazing that people do that. That blows my mind.
But that's why you get to make such fun videos.
True.
So I contacted a local attorney, and I don't know how much he really read the suit itself. But he's like, yeah, you're just going to have to, pay a few $1,000s this guy to get rid of him. And that just didn't sit right with me.
Yeah.
It didn't. I mean, I have learned way more about copyright law in the last year and a half than I ever wanted to know. But that seemed like rewarding bad behavior, because I knew that I didn't really truly do anything wrong. And so my best friend Sylvia, actually, she's funny, somebody was coming after her best friend, and so she started doing all this research. And in one of the many articles available on Mr. Liebowitz online, was an article where Dan Booth had been quoted talking about, defending people that Liebowitz had sued successfully. And so I called him. Yeah. He's in Concord, Massachusetts, so he's not, can't practice law here. So we had to partner with local attorneys here. But Mr. Liebowitz had to do the same, by the way.
Yeah. And it's a procedure that varies from every court around the country. So every time an attorney wants to appear in a different court, you have to go look up the rule. I'm admitted into the Colorado court system because their rule is that you don't have to be associated with local counsel. But in North Carolina, you have to be associated with local counsel.
Right.
So that you have to have two attorneys, basically, if you want the attorney who's experienced with this particular kind of litigation plus local counsel has to be associated. So you end up having to hire two attorneys. Yeah. Sometimes it means paying an extra amount of money, extra legal fee. Sometimes the attorney, I whenever I do it, I try to work it out so that the client doesn't end up paying double or paying extra. That either one attorney does the work or I do the work. And whenever
and
we're
that's
doing
what Dan has done.
Case management, I don't charge for the case management part. I just charge for the actual work that I do. Try to keep it fair. But yeah, the courts make it unnecessarily complicated.
And there are lots of other rules with the North Carolina one. You can only do it for so many cases, because Mr. Liebowitz got in trouble with that too, because he filed like 6 or 7 cases all the same
Because
time.
Of course he did.
Right. And one of them was against Rhett and Link, which my kids and I are big.
Oh, that was the Good Mythical Morning one?
Yeah.
And then he botched that case and had to...
They're from here.
Oh, excellent. Yeah, he botched that case and had to voluntarily dismiss that one.
Yeah.
To try to avoid further problems.
It's amazing.
And I thought that Liebowitz was going to win that one too, so...
Well, I remember your video on it and explaining, how, what your interpretation of it was. And yeah, it was very interesting. Like I said, I've learned a lot by watching your videos, and I think I've got 2 YouTube alerts. One is my son, who, like every other 13-year-old boy, wants to be an aspiring YouTuber, and the other is you. So when new videos come up, I'm like, ooh, is he going after anybody I care if he's going after today? So yeah. So I was actually at an air show. That was my previous reserve job. I was the public affairs officer for one of the DoD parachute teams.
Oh, that sounds
fun. I was
fun.
at this air show, and it was so much fun. But I'm on the flight line during this air show trying to talk to Dan, and there's, the Thunderbirds. But I wanted to talk to him.
They're
so
like
badly,
past you before you hear them.
Yeah. So Dan, was certainly willing to take the case, and I felt much more comfortable with him and his fighting spirit, and not just paying somebody for bad behavior.
Good.
So we first offered a Rule 68 settlement for $500.
That's a good idea. I do that in my cases a lot too.
The picture wasn't copyrighted until almost a year after I shared it. So it would be actual damages, monetary damages.
Right. And I don't even think you get attorney's fee shifting in a case with actual damages and copyright.
Not automatically.
Yeah.
We had asked for that early, fairly early on, so he couldn't just drop the case and walk away. But yeah, we offered $500 on a Rule 68 settlement, which was ignored. He didn't even answer it. So, all right. So we keep going, and then we start filing things so they can see what we have. Now, one of the things that's, I don't know if they knew it or not. I kind of think they maybe didn't, but if you're on Facebook and you're looking at a photo, or a post that you have access to, either because it's it's set to public, or you're friends with the person who shared it, one of the little 3-dot menu things that you can do is to view the edit history of the post.
Okay.
So anytime somebody changes the caption or switches the photo out, there's a record of that. So even though by the time they filed the lawsuit, if you went to the post, the picture had writing on it that said wrong on so many levels, copyright Matthew Bradley, the caption had copyright information in it, but the edit history showed that that wasn't put there until late December of 2018.
Okay.
Almost a year after I had shared it.
Yeah.
So we showed, I'm like, well, screen grab that. Because not only was I sued for infringement, but I was sued for CMI removal.
Right. Section 1201.
Right. And
copyright management information, which is like author's name and attribution, credit.
Right. And that's the one that really kind of pushed me over to okay, now I'm just mad.
And the minimum damages for that are higher. They're $2,500, not $750 statutory, and not actual damages.
Right.
So Liebowitz, as far as I know, likes to include that as often as possible, because that bumps up the damages, and he can ask for thousands instead of hundreds.
Right. But it was, a quick view of the caption history would show you that none of that, they talked about the stuff being on the photo. Well, it wasn't on the photo until a year after I shared it.
Yeah.
How could I remove something that wasn't there? So that was like
sneaky.
I don't like liars. I'm, not to be like kind of cheeseball, but I've been in the Air Force now for 22 years.
Being
the
a
Air
good
Force
and moral
core values
person
are a
is
big
not
deal.
being a cheeseball.
And our first thing is integrity first. And yeah. So there was a crack that was chapped by that one. So once, it moved forward a few months, and they're seeing things, discovery and all that stuff. Mr. Liebowitz actually contacted Dan and said, hey, would she settle for like 1,000? Now, by this time, my legal fees were like, I don't know, 22,000, something like that.
Holy mackerel.
And I said, no, I will settle if you pay my legal fees up to this point. And you can walk away before they get higher, which he didn't do. So then we kept going. Then we got to mediation. Now, mediation was fun, Leonard. I'm not going to lie. I was nervous. I've never been in a court situation like this before.
Yeah.
It was a video mediation. I did it here at the local attorney's office. Mr. Liebowitz was in New York. Mr. Bradley lives in California, so they were in by VTC.
And this would have been sometime around October 2019? I'm looking at your docket here.
I thought it was later, like I want to say January, February, but I could be. My memory is terrible.
You might be right. It doesn't actually have the mediation on the docket. It just says notice of identifying the mediator.
Okay.
So
yeah. So the mediator she's also, I believe, a judge.
Okay.
And also does mediation.
Michelle Lido.
Yeah, she was great. She worked very hard to be very professional, which I appreciate.
Yeah.
I think she had a hard time sometimes. I didn't have to be professional, so I didn't care. But so we first all met, and so they're seeing me for the first time. I'm seeing them for the first time, other than photos or whatever. And I think both of them were surprised it had gotten to this point, which doesn't really happen with him, right? Like,
yeah,
not a lot of Liebowitz cases keep going until here. So I said, I basically made the same offer. I said, look, I will be more than happy to stop this, but now my legal fees are about $35,000. So that's what I'm asking for.
Yeah, but by the time you've gotten here, you're at something like 23 docket entries. You've answered the complaint. Attorneys have entered their appearances. you've gone through the case management process with the initial
all the
conference with
interrogatories
the
and
judge,
the answers, and
you've done all the discovery, which doesn't show up on the docket. So that's the expensive part of a case. The most expensive part is probably the discovery, and then if you can't settle it after discovery, then you get into what you had to do, which was summary judgment,
right.
Motion in limine, summary judgment. So many docket entries and so many exhibits need to be prepared. Your legal fees just start to shoot up towards the end of a case.
So we were all together, and then we separated, and the mediator would go back and forth between the two rooms.
Yeah.
And I gave her the background, and very calmly just said, I don't think I should have to pay anything, So as long as my legal fees are covered, I'm not asking, nor can I, but I'm not asking for anything else. That's right. What I want to be even, Steven.
Yeah. It's hard to kind of get punitive damages or extra money.
Yeah. So. Honestly, I was enjoying the punitive damage of having to watch both of their faces.
Kind of unfair, though, in a way, isn't it? Because if it was the plaintiff going against you, the plaintiff gets a damage award plus their attorney's fees. You just get your attorney's fees. Shouldn't it be, so in some sort of philosophical concept of justice and fairness, you would think that a defendant who is subject to this kind of thing would get at least something extra for their personal time, because you put a bunch of personal time. Shouldn't we assign some value to your personal time that you wasted on this case?
Yeah. A lot of my friends are like, can you go after this? Can you go after that? And I'm like, no, I can go after the attorney's fees, but those are a lot now.
Yeah.
Much higher than they were at mediation. But so this is what I thought was so funny about how things worked at mediation. So Miss Leto, right? I think that was her name, the mediator. She went back and talked to Mr. Bradley and Mr. Liebowitz, and came back and said, okay, now in not interrogation, what's the right word? When they interviewed Mr. Bradley for the lawsuit.
Deposition?
Thank you. So in the deposition,
which is very much like an interrogation.
I can imagine. Bradley had said that he never sold the photo ever.
Okay.
Never licensed it, but that he had an intention to sell T-shirts with it, through Cafe Press. Sure. Now I had a Cafe Press store for grammar stuff, so I actually knew how it worked. So Miss Leto came back in and said, all right, so they're saying no to just paying your legal fees. But what they're offering is, if you'll in the lawsuit, that Mr. Bradley will start selling T-shirts with the meme on it and will share the profits with you. I think the original offer was 75 to them and 25% to me. Okay. How many different
That's a clever offer, but
explanations of how the market works do I need to go through to find all the holes in this plan?
Yeah.
Let's start with Cafe Press. Cafe Press is a print-on-demand service.
Yeah.
So the fees that you pay them versus what you make as the creator are much higher.
Yeah.
So I don't know exactly what it is, but it might be that somebody pays $25 for a T-shirt with your picture on it.
Yeah.
You might get $5 from that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he's talking about giving you 25% of net profits.
Right.
And that's if he doesn't find some other holes to reduce the fee.
Right. So, all right, my fees at this point were $35,000. So let's even say that he's going to make $10 from it. So I'm going to get $2.50 from each T-shirt. So you'd have to sell 14,000 T-shirts.
Yeah.
To pay my legal fees. Now, and both of them are like, oh, but I mean, that meme went viral. People are going to go crazy for these T-shirts. Look, hitting the thumbs up or sharing a meme or an image is not equivalent to buying a T-shirt with it.
Yeah, it's not.
Maybe Grumpy Cat, right? So just because it went viral 20,000 times doesn't mean you're going to sell 20,000 T-shirts. Again, that's not how the market works.
Yeah.
And then this was the cherry on top. So I literally did some rough math and handed it to her. And I was like, so they're telling me that they're going to sell 15,000 of these T-shirts. And someday I'll, by the way, he has no way to market it.
Yeah.
Right.
And now he's 25% less motivated to do it. because
exactly.
his incentive is now reduced.
Right. I just remembered this. No, they were like, I, on my website and my Facebook page, could sell the t-shirts to help make, okay.
So you can do the work to recover your own
Yeah,
fees.
yay me. Because that's what I wanted, is to keep in some sort of business deal with these two guys for the next 10 years. And so Miss Lito took that in there to them. It came back, and God bless her, she really was
trying to be a straight face. They said...
They said, well, no, we can make money much more quickly and make a lot more money. We'll just sell the t-shirts for $100 each.
This man has never taken an economics course.
None. Well, I mean, I don't know much about Mr. Bradley's background, but Mr. Liebowitz still lives with Broadway producer, as far as I know, Daddy, in this big mansion in New York City. I don't think basic economics or business stuff, obviously, by the way his firm has been run, is high on his list of things that he's well aware of. So I lost it.
Just like laughing
I was like,
in front of the mediator.
$100 for a t-shirt with some pictures with levels on it.
Yeah.
And in his brain, they're like, sell 10,000 t-shirts for $25,000 or sell 10,000 t-shirts for $100,000. It didn't occur to them that maybe a few people wouldn't want to pay $100 for that t-shirt, much less 25.
Wow.
Oh my God.
I mean, this is like the basics of supply and demand. Like,
right. Yeah. I will say in generalities, it's an entitlement culture thing. They're just like, well, of course people should pay me $100 for this t-shirt, and not realizing that that's just not how this stuff works.
Or very cleverly
I have been publishing and selling books for years. I know how this works. If that's how it worked, I would just sell my program for $1,000 a pop and make 10 times more than I previously made.
Did you get a suspicion that he was oblivious to the economics of it, or maybe that he was intentionally going to sabotage it? We'll charge $100, then nobody buys it, and he's gotten out of it with you.
I got more of the oblivion feeling. Like there was, especially when we went back in at the end, from both of them, the questions that Mr. Bradley asked actually, to me, indicated that he may not really understand everything that was going on. In general, right? Mr. Liebowitz is not overly communicative with his clients. So, but Mr. Liebowitz looked kind of deer in the headlights by the end of it. Once I had said, okay, this is ridiculous. I'm not going to talk about selling t-shirts off Cafe Press.
Yeah.
Either my legal fees get paid or we're going to keep going.
The train is now off the rails. Let's go get a crane and lift the car back onto the track and start going, a couple hours from now.
Right. So, I was like, that's it. So we went back in at the end, and it really looked like I was looking at two guys on the video screen that were just like, they couldn't believe that we hadn't come up to some sort of agreement.
But they threw the first punch. Back to the word you used, entitled, is some kind of absolute obliviousness to there being a real person on the other side of the lawsuit, on the other side of the screen. It's like when you get angry playing a online video game, or angry at someone on Twitter, and then they actually respond, and you're like, oh wait, I forgot that that's a person on the other end of this. Yeah.
Well, and I don't like playing the pity me card at all. That's not the way I roll. But hold on. Memo. Shh.
What kind of dog do you have?
She is a black and white standard poodle.
Oh, excellent.
She's awesome.
They're very smart. Sometimes too smart.
Quiet. Memo, come here. Yeah, she's very smart. Come here. Come. What are you barking at? Come here. You're fine. All right. So so mediation was done. Now we go to summary judgment, which takes forever.
Yeah.
And like you said, it's so much information, and the legal fees were just, You
made the motion for summary judgment in July of 2020, and it was only just resolved last week. In March, the beginning of March, for anybody watching this after.
Yeah. My birthday's in January, and I remember Dan saying, it might come in January. It might be a birthday present for you, you know?
Oh, happy birthday.
But thank you. But it didn't. It took it took until March.
Yeah.
And honestly, we thought it was gonna. The previous week I had gotten an email from Dan because, and I hope I get the terminology right. The judge had put out a message or motion or whatever to Liebowitz for him to show good cause why he shouldn't be kicked off the case.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah. So the answer to that, that was weird. The answer to that was due last Thursday, I think on the 4th.
Yeah.
So Dan had emailed me about it and said, you know, it's probably going to make this drag out a little longer, but overall it's probably going to be a good thing, you know, for the case, and of course for hopefully getting your fees back. So we were shocked. In fact, I'm sitting here at my desk. You know, I've been on full-time military orders now for 14 months. I mean, a lot has happened. My company's closed. I don't, you know, I'm now full-time military again for the first time in 20 years, which I love. And I telecommute it, most of it. So I'm in Raleigh, North Carolina, but I'm assigned to a unit in Denver, Colorado.
Oh, cool.
It's pretty awesome. But I'm, you know, sitting here working and I get a text from Dan. It just in all caps, "We won." And I was like, what? I thought we were going to have to, you know, go longer. Yeah. So I don't know why it sort of happened in that order. It kind of maybe came to the top of the pile on her desk, but yeah, we won.
And the grounds that you won on are really simple, but very interesting because there was a saving grace built into Facebook's terms of service that we don't you know, otherwise see this. This was because of the way Facebook's terms of service were written
at the time, because they have since changed.
They have since changed it. Okay.
So we had to go back and find a current.
To be clear for my audience especially, this is not the rule. You don't automatically have the right to share somebody else's photo. And in your case, you could possibly have been held liable, except for this. This could have been the thing the case turned on. You also made a fair use argument. You also made an implied license argument. I'm not sure the court got to that point. And
she kind of stopped it. The Facebook said, you know, when she got to the Facebook terms and went, well, this kind of solves it. Why do I need to read through all this other stuff? It was a fair use argument ruling.
Exactly. It was sort of disappointing. I was hoping for a whole thing. But I also understand that if I was the judge, if I found the thing that the case turns on, why would I then have to write about the other things? Especially if I'm a judge and I have already heard about Leibowitz's shenaniganery, his discipline and his suspension, and I'm getting ready to suspend him myself from this case, what is he really going to appeal? Who's going to appeal? He's not going to appeal. So, you know, make it a short order, and then if he wants to attack it on appeal, oh well, deal with it then.
Right. Yeah, Dan, I know, was surprised that it was the Facebook terms. I actually have a very clear memory of taking my kids roller skating and sitting in like the concession area at the roller rink with my laptop and downloading all of these materials. And that's one of the things that I wanted to find, because there's a place on Facebook to go see the terms of service, and then there's a thing to view previous versions. And so the current Facebook terms of service were redone, I think, 2 years ago. But the previous terms of service that were in effect when Mr. Bradley shared that photo on his Facebook page basically said if you post something to Facebook on a public setting, that it creates a license for anybody to share it and use it.
Yeah, it specifically says, Part 4, when you publish content or information using the public setting, it means you are allowing everyone, including people off of Facebook, to access and use that information and to associate it with you, your name and profile picture. It doesn't say you shall credit. It just says you are allowing everyone to use that information. Right. Which is very broad and maybe a little bit terrible in the intellectual property sense.
Which may be why the current terms are not written that way.
Yeah.
I don't know. but they were then.
There was probably some sort of backlash. I can imagine one of these, viral things. Facebook says they own everything that you post. Look, It says here. And then Facebook has to be like, no, we didn't mean it to say that. Here, we'll update the terms so that everybody can.
That's what people put the status, I am hereby saying that Facebook does not have access. Yeah. Right.
As if that overrides, as if you can unilaterally override the terms. There's probably also a term that says you can't unilaterally override the terms.
Yeah.
So because of that one sentence term, Liebowitz, and that sort of betrays Leibowitz's due diligence in the case. Either he did his due diligence and just missed that, or he really wasn't assuming that Facebook had a term like that. But you have to go through that.
I'm pretty sure this is the case. In at least some of the documentation that he submitted, he was trying to use the current terms of service.
Oh, goodness.
And so, and again, that's the kind of stuff that just chaps me. I'm like, look, like you said, my uncle is an attorney. I have friends who are attorneys. I'm a proponent of the legal system. I think we've got some things we could fix, but it exists for a reason, to stop people from doing things they shouldn't be doing, either civil or criminally. I'm all about that. And by the way, I'm a big proponent of intellectual property rights. I've been publishing my mother's curriculum for years. So it's not like I don't understand, nor do I, I understand the importance of protecting the intellectual property of people.
Yeah.
And so the fact that something so petty, I mean, in his deposition, Mr. Bradley said, once sort of, he never said the thing about it coming up in his Facebook memories, but when he started changing the captions and all that stuff, he went looking for a CMI attorney, and he found Mr. Liebowitz, not the other way around. Now, I was the only person he sued. That photo was everywhere.
Why would he go after little old you?
I don't know. Yay, I'm so lucky. I don't know.
I mean, there's some kind of theory for plaintiffs that you don't want to go after the biggest fish because they can afford to defend themselves. You don't want to go after the poorest fish because they can't afford to pay. You want to go after somebody in the middle who is just too hassled to go through it and will just throw some money at you. And so, same thing with patent law. You'll get a patent lawsuit against the smaller companies that infringe before they will ever consider suing a big name company like a Samsung or an Apple or a Google.
Well, so I can't remember. I know Reddit was one of them, and there was one other, my Instagram maybe, I can't remember. But Mr. Bradley actually sent emails in, I know, to Reddit asking for them to pay I think $50 licensing fee since his photo was showing up on their website. And they replied back, and I can't remember the exact quote, but something like "Go pound sand." I don't know.
Politely saying "Go pound sand."
Yeah.
Dial 1-800-pound-sand.
So that kind of fits into what you're saying, right? I mean, goodness, I would think that the damages therein would be much higher for massive companies like Reddit or Instagram or Tumblr or whatever else they contacted. And there were other sort of smaller, couple of grammar Facebook pages and stuff that shared it. It was everywhere. So I don't know why I'm just such a lucky girl, but I am, and I'm a very just generally glass half full person. I am really hoping at the end of this that I'm not on the hook for what is now about $110,000 in legal fees. The GoFundMe has been great. I think it's up to $35,000.
Good.
So that's a lot, because I've been making payments on this stuff for a year and a half now.
Okay.
Dan deserves to be paid for the work he's doing.
Yeah.
It'll take me a long time to pay him off.
So, but I'm assuming that there's some sort of fee motion forthcoming.
Yes. Okay. I think it'll be next week. I think we have to wait 2 weeks and we file that.
Okay.
But yes, we are asking for all of it.
Yeah. And what the concern is that it's within the discretion of the judge to a point. It's an appealable issue, but much of it is within the discretion of the judge to decide things like the objective unreasonableness of the original claim. And if the judge says, they had a meritorious claim and they handled it okay, you're probably not getting all of your fees back. You might not even get most of them. You might just get some of them. The judge will decide maybe like, well, you made a Rule 68 offer and they didn't take it, so everything after the Rule 68 offer. That might be. So you've got two opportunities to fee shift there. You've got 17 U.S.C. 505, which is the copyright's fee shifting provision. And then you've also got the Rule 68 offer, which should help preserve that as well. That's why we make those.
Yes, exactly.
So I hope to see that, and the judge can also then pare down Attorney Booth's fee if the judge thinks that he didn't properly record his entries or something, which, at this point, I'm pretty sure that Dan would not make those mistakes, but it's still possible the judge could disagree. I think the judge can pare down by 30% without explaining anything. So hopefully you're not on the hook for the extra, but definitely I'm watching it closely and will be happy to make a donation to make up the difference, to help make up the difference.
Well, I appreciate that very much.
It'll be probably a small donation, but hopefully, everybody will donate. And I'll put a link in the description of my video as well. And then, of course, we'll follow up with the actual fee motion and decision. Make it a serial thing.
I'm hoping that won't take too long. I have no idea if it'll be like another 8 months before we hear back on that.
It could be months. I don't know. I've seen some of them take 5 to 6 months, and it's COVID, so who knows if it takes longer.
Well, what I've said a lot of people have donated onto the GoFundMe, which I can't tell you what a lifesaver that has been, just to be able to kind of keep up making payments. And especially because when I closed the company, I can't remember if I said this earlier or not, but when I closed the company, I ended up on the hook for some of the debt, even though my company was a corporation. Some of the debt I had personally guaranteed. Right. So I still have like 150 grand.
That happens. Sometimes the bank won't give you a loan, or a company won't give you credit unless you also personally guarantee the
right. debt. So my finances are kind of a hot mess because of this, but I may not be the final straw that breaks this particular copyright lawyer's back.
I don't know why any one person would have to be. That he's done so much to do it to himself.
I know, but I at least can be a big straw, and I can sort of hold my head up high and not feel like I have encouraged his behavior and therefore allowed him to keep doing it to other people.
Yeah.
If that means that it's going to take me a couple years to dig out of debt, so be it. And I've told what I've talked about the GoFundMe, if I do get all of those fees back, and that cover, let's say it covers absolutely everything. There's not an easy way to return donations on GoFundMe, especially for a lengthy fundraiser like this.
Yeah, or even like prorate the refund either. That's hard to calculate for all those people.
Right. I do have a record of all of the donations. So, but I'm just I'll put up, I can message all of the donors and say, look, we got all the money back. If you would like to have your donation back, here's how you can contact me and I will send it to you. If I don't hear from you in, a month or whatever, then I'm just going to put that toward the debt left over from the company that I had to close because this happened anyway.
And I bet you can find a way to phrase it so that maybe everybody has to email you by a certain time or message you by a certain time. And then you'll add that number up. And if the requested refund is more than the actual amount of money, then you just prorate everybody's. But I bet you can figure out a way to do it fair.
Yeah. Some people have donated a lot of money. It's the outpouring, so Analytical Grammar,
That's awesome.
I don't publish it anymore. I transferred that IP to another company because I wanted to make sure that my mother's program was going to be available in perpetuity, and I wasn't going to be able to afford to publish it anymore.
Yeah, you have to manage your personal, your work-life balance and all that, and
yeah. And so, she was very, very proud of the materials, and they're very popular. And so that worked out well. And they've been very gracious. So like the Analytical Grammar Facebook page is still there. Everything previous to the transfer was deleted off of that page, pretty much. But they'll let me post, like I posted last week, they posted about the win to
Excellent.
keep people updated on it, because a lot of them are still, they're aware of this crazy lawsuit.
This is a crazy lawsuit.
Crazy lawsuit. I told Dan, though, if I'm getting fees back at some point, I'm flying up to Massachusetts, taking him out to dinner. I've never met the man in person.
Yep.
It's always been over the phone.
Happens these days. I don't meet the vast majority of my clients either in person.
Oh, yeah.
Spend hours on the phone with them sometimes, but
yeah, lots of texts and phone calls and emails back and forth. I've been just eternally grateful. He's, Dan is very bright, and I love the way he thinks everything through. But what I also appreciate is just a sort of fighter spirit. I think some attorneys have we just need to mitigate this, and it's probably easier if you do that. And instead of, no, the right thing to do is to stand up to this. Yeah. And so I felt like I had a, good coach in my corner of the ring. I've been very grateful for that.
Excellent. So that I think you've basically covered the whole story from beginning to end. How about what do you think of this latest thing that has happened? So the judge ordered Liebowitz to show cause why he should not be basically suspended from the representation in this case because of all the other suspensions. Right. It calls into question his eligibility for special appearance under the local rules. Attorneys in good standing of a United States court may practice if they associate with a local member. However, in light of his suspension, Liebowitz is not in good standing in the bar of his home state, basically. It's the district court of his home state. And so then he responds. He says he was temporarily suspended. He makes a copy. He says that the court ordered him to show cause. He then says he didn't respond within 30 days. And he says then, could you please let me stay in the case? And that's it. That's what he says. In light of the clerk's entry of judgment dated March 3rd, in the interests of justice, Mr. Liebowitz respectfully requests leave of court to continue to appear as counsel for the limited purpose of helping plaintiff oppose any ancillary motion practice brought by defendant. Now, why would he need to appear to oppose any future motion? What motion did we say was coming up here that Liebowitz has an interest in not being on the hook for?
Boy, that's a really hard question, Lynn. I got to think about it. It seems to me that there have been a few previous cases where the plaintiff himself hasn't been ordered to pay fees, but the attorney has.
Yeah.
Maybe it's got something to do with that.
And even if it's a general attorney's fees award to the defendant from the plaintiff as opposed to the plaintiff's attorney, the plaintiff might then have some kind of claim against his attorney, depending on what the background relationship or agreement or did Liebowitz.
You remember when it was quite a few months ago, right? When somebody got their hands on one of the contingency agreements. Yeah. And one of the things that's starkly missing from it is what happens if the plaintiff has to pay fees.
Yeah. And right? Courts have held hearings about who pays the sanctions. And so there was that Glenn Craig matter which I don't think we have that ruling yet. But the judge was trying to figure out, was it Liebowitz who screwed up or was it the client that screwed up? What was the relation? What did Liebowitz tell the client? Because you can't really ask that. That's not a really good, that's for the bar or the grievance committee to ask. Right. And so just a big if here, but we can make some assumptions about Liebowitz. If he didn't properly inform his client of the risk that the massive fee award could shift back onto the plaintiff, maybe Liebowitz is personally responsible for some of the award. But that's between him and his client. And right. And like I mentioned before, the
Glenn Craig case is one where it came up, right, about the level of communication between Liebowitz and his clients. I honestly wonder if Bradley's even aware that there was a ruling. I don't know.
Yeah, that's possible.
No idea.
Liebowitz could be figuring out how to couch it, how to position his response.
So Matthew, I got some bad news. Um, but I think early on, after learning about just in general how Mr. Liebowitz runs his practice and what he does, there was part of me that felt a little bad in that, or just sort of not being felt bad, but just wondering how much Mr. Bradley really understood about what was going on, and what he was doing and who he was suing. But once the GoFundMe went out, the information about who I am and who the company is and my mother and all that stuff, I know that got back to him, and he kept doing it. And so
at some point you have to lose sympathy.
Yeah. Now you're kind of sleeping in the bed you made in. And we gave him so many chances. Yeah. We'll give you $500 and it's done. Ignoring.
Yeah.
Well, you can pay my legal fees, but they're only 20 grand.
That also brings up an interesting point of lawyer-client relationship. If you make an offer to an opposing party, that opposing party's attorney has a affirmative obligation to bring that to the client. So either there is a written agreement that says that Liebowitz is in charge of offers and doesn't have to bring them to the client because the client has already said, this is how I want it to play out. Or Liebowitz has a duty to bring it to the client and the client has to say, no, I won't accept that. If that wasn't done, that could be another opportunity for the plaintiff himself, Mr. Bradley, to claim against Richard Liebowitz himself. And then, so I have another question, and I want you to feel perfectly free not to answer this one because this is part of your future legal strategy. But are you prepared if you get a fee award and they don't pay the fee award, the next step would be to bring that as a judgment against Liebowitz and his client, like in their county, like to pursue execution of the judgment? Are you prepared to do that, to try and collect your money?
I can answer that personally, because honestly, it's not something that we haven't gotten to that step of discussion yet, but I don't know why I wouldn't.
Okay.
It's an integrity thing. You did something, the court says you did something wrong. Yeah. The court says that you now need to pay.
And you're actually injured. You're a sincere defendant. This isn't you looking for a payday. This is looking to be made
Which is how this started on the other side, by the way.
Restored back to the original position you were in. And yeah, they were looking for a payday.
Right. I just want to not have my entire financial life completely ruined. I don't know. That
sounds pretty fair to me.
Right? And it's not, and bringing it back to zero sum. I can't seek emotional damages or punitive anything or whatever. Yeah. All I can do is seek to just go back to the zero sum. And here's the other thing, though. That really can't happen, right? Because even if, let's say, every single dime of my legal fees gets reimbursed.
Yeah.
And let's say that 100% of the people who donated to my GoFundMe say, keep the money, put it toward debt. My company is gone. The company that I started with my mother. I no longer have control over the products that she wrote and and we wrote together some of the ancillary products. Now I'm thrilled and very supportive of the company that's now Demi Learning that now publishes it, and I know they're going to do an amazing job. But it's still, that's part of my connection with my mom.
And that decision, was that intertwined with this case? Did you make that decision in whole or in part because of this case?
Oh yeah, because I couldn't afford it anymore. I literally couldn't afford to keep my company going. So the only thing I could do, because like I said, I wasn't making enough. The company had incurred some debt, some of which was like I said, I never went to college for business. So the debt was incurred partially to, print more books and hopefully make more sales, advertising, that kind of stuff. But also things my mom had wonderful health insurance, but there were some things that we paid out of pocket for it. Toward the end, lots of travel she did 7 different types of chemo over 7 years.
Wow.
So there was debt incurred from that. So I wasn't taking a salary. I didn't have, the company didn't have a few extra tens of thousands of dollars to throw at attorneys. Yeah. So in October of 2019, I was, crunching numbers and I thought, maybe I'll try and go on order. So military reservists, we can do our, weekend a month and 2 weeks a year, and that's it. And a lot of us do, that's what I did for many years. But there are plenty of opportunities, well, not plenty, but there are a lot of opportunities to be able to go on orders, which essentially makes you like your active duty. You're not called that, but you're full-time. So I'm a lieutenant colonel. At the time I'd been in for 20 years. I crossed over to 22 last fall.
Wow. And
I went and looked at the pay scale, which anybody can pull up online. It's, public information for the US military, and realized what kind of money I would make if I went full time. And so I talked to the family and I was like, so I'll probably have to leave, January through March, I was looking 2020 was fairly open. Not that I want to leave my kids for 3 months straight and go somewhere. I almost went to Japan, actually.
Oh.
But I actually got offered this job, which was all year and mostly telecommuting. So it was a godsend. But I never would have looked for military orders if this lawsuit hadn't have happened, because the whole reason I went looking is because I had to find some money. I had to start making money so that I could pay my legal bills.
Wow.
And so then working full time and then trying to keep the company afloat and it, still trying to pay the attorneys. And at that point I was like, this rolling ball of hot mess is going to come in and crash. And what I didn't want to have happen is for it to crash in a way that would make the grammar program just cease to publish. So that's why I chose to transfer the IP to another company and then just close the company. But that left me on the hook for...
So that your mother's legacy would be preserved, and all those people who could benefit from her hard work would continue.
There's lots of families that keep using it. They could buy new student books, and it was really important to me that those products that my mom had worked so many years on, and it really is an amazing grammar program, would just still be available. So yeah, no, it's definitely it's all part of it. Me going full-time military is part of it. Closing AG is part of it.
Yeah.
I had another small side company that I just sold for a couple $100 to one of my business partners, just because at this point I was like, I just need to focus on full-time military and get out of the grammar business altogether. But none of this would have happened. And some of it, I love my job. But there's still the fact that, finances are such a mess, the fact that, that, I don't have ownership over my mom's stuff anymore.
The case and Liebowitz and Bradley in a way took the choice, the agency and the choice away from you. And although you made the best decisions you could with what you had, they still forced you to make those decisions under circumstances that you could have chosen. You could have made different choices if you didn't have this.
I think, and again, I think it's part of an entitlement mindset. Well, I made something and I should get paid for it. Okay, then go work for that. That's how it works. I did it for years and years and years, writing these books and trying to sell them, because that's how the market works. But an entitlement mindset says, I made something and I should get paid for it. So, they kick off a lawsuit like this, which to them might not seem like a big deal, mainly because they're fully expecting little old me just to write him a check for a few grand and call it done. And it's not, the domino set that this started is insane. Like, if you really look at how completely upended everything has been, for me, because of this picture of some levels with blue painter's tape on them,
I remember seeing that meme, and I really can't believe that this grew into that, or that grew into this. But it did. I'm looking at the docket, looking at 65 docket entries and 2 years of litigation.
Yeah.
And that's fairly
the Analytical
short
Grammar Facebook
for a case
page,
this complicated.
The AG Facebook page, when they announced it last week, Ethan Demi, who's the owner of the company, he's a friend of mine, he took a picture of some levels with the word right on all of them, and that's how he announced that I won the lawsuit.
That's clever.
I'll send you. I think I may have shared it on my Twitter, so you can get to it from there.
Excellent.
It was very, very cute.
Well, I'm going to probably post a screenshot of that in my video, so I hope I don't get sued.
No, in fact, he even says in the caption that you can freely use that photo for whatever you like.
There we go. Good, I'm reassured. You fought for the cause, you fought for yourself, and you won, and that's really remarkable. I'm really glad. And this also is a great example of the problems with pursuing copyright cases, but also other types of cases, but specifically copyright cases, too far. Liebowitz, if he wasn't, and this is me speculating, but if he wasn't so greedy, he would have easily recognized that you made a $500 offer, which was totally fair for an actual damages case. And the only problem with that was Liebowitz, or maybe the client, or maybe both, wanted more money. But I'm guessing that Liebowitz didn't want to stop at 500. He wanted to get paid, and 500 wasn't going to pay him and the client, especially since they came after you in a lawsuit, which has a $400 filing fee. So 500 was going to give Liebowitz 50 and his client 50 if we just split it down the middle. I'm not sure what their specific agreement was. And so no one was going to get anything out of it. Of course, they weren't doing anything from the beginning, so this is a great example of failing up, yes. Not in the failing up in the business sense, but failing up in the taking a minor mistake, which was their mistake to sue you, and turning it into a $100,000 debt.
Well, it's, I like to play a little blackjack here and there. And, I see some parallels, if you get on a heater and keep going and things are great. But if you start losing,
you need to know when to fold them.
What you need to do is walk away. And what some people who aren't very good in the long term
know when to run.
They're just going to try to bet more and make up for the difference and hope that it comes out in their favor in the end, which I don't think happened here. Hopefully not by the end of this. But yeah, I can at least feel like I held my head up high in that I didn't reward what I consider to be bad behavior. I really appreciate that Dan is cool with me talking about all of this. I mean, some lawyers aren't. Well,
you've got the judgment now, and the most that could be done is a motion for reconsideration or an appeal. And I don't see the grounds here. They could continue to dig the hole, but I doubt that they're going to try.
But that means actual lawyering too. So,
Yeah.
Not a forte as of late, at least. But it's, the worst case scenario at this point that comes out of this is I won and was cleared of all charges. And the worst case that can come out of it is that, over the next few years, I, keep working my butt off and pay off my legal fees. That's the worst case. And that's, it's not what I'm hoping for, because I have other things that I would like to pay for.
I hope so too. I hope that you get the fee award that you're looking for. I hope that you get it in full and there's no additional debt.
That would be lovely. But it's good. I feel great. I'm thrilled about the win. I'm thrilled about the work that Dan did and the legal team here. And
great.
Yeah, it's all good.
We get to the rest of the story is not necessarily Erin Karl's story. It's going to be the schadenfreude of Liebowitz being suspended from a case where he needs to argue that he shouldn't have to pay, but he's not going to be able to do that. He's going to have to hire his own
You'll have to
attorney.
hire someone.
But
Well,
he's
maybe
not in charge of hiring the
local council
attorney.
guy might do it. I don't know.
Exactly. And but he's not doing it on behalf of Liebowitz. He's doing it on behalf of Bradley. So now you've got sort of a bit of a conflict between Liebowitz and Bradley, because Leibowitz desperately doesn't want to have to pay them. Yeah.
Right? Like
Exactly.
Liebowitz has been in weird situations like that already too.
Yeah. So this is a terrible situation for Liebowitz, terrible situation for Bradley too, but we don't know what Liebowitz told Bradley. So some of it, Bradley is certainly somewhat to blame, but maybe all to blame. But just knowing Liebowitz, we can also think that Liebowitz had something to do with it. But now you've got this the next part of it's going to play out of the attorney's fees award, the Liebowitz being suspended at least from the case, potentially. Still can't believe that his entire argument was just, hey, judge, we did tell you, but please let me in. Where's the rest of the argument? I've reformed my practice of law.
Something about the date of the letter was like dated before the due date, but it actually didn't arrive until a couple of weeks after the due date, something like that. And he focused on the date that was on the letter and not the date that it was actually sent to the clerk.
Yowza.
He does that stuff all the time, though. It's massage, what in public affairs we call massaging the information.
Why not just take the time to do it correctly up front, or to even if you make a mistake, look at how far he got in the case, making some mistakes. Notice of deficiency here, notice of deficiency there. You correct the deficiency and you go on, and the judge doesn't care too much until you start hitting so many important deficiencies that the judge starts to question your competency to practice.
Right. Yeah.
And that's before we get to, we've been suspended and sanctioned before and had to tell the court about this one. Thank you, Jesse Furman of the Southern District of New York.
Yeah. No, one of the many things that I have enjoyed throughout this time is, I probably do a little Liebowitz Google search about once a week, because it's always entertaining, if Tech Dirt's going to write a new article, or if you're going to put up a new video, or and just there's shenaniganery is entertaining to say the least. So and getting to know you and watching your videos and chatting every once in a while in the comments with your fans. I remember I was in Las Vegas. I can't remember if it was for an air show or the air show convention, but that was when you were in your car outside of a courtroom up in New York.
White
it was
Plains,
the whole grandfather dying thing.
Yeah, with the grandfather dying.
I'm laying in my bed at like 7 o'clock in the morning in Vegas.
And I'm like, I went to Best Buy and bought a cell phone mount, because I'm like, okay, I've got to mount my phone because I'm not allowed to touch it in New York, let alone, recording and driving is not a good idea in the begin with.
Right.
So,
yeah.
Yeah,
No.
that was exciting, and at the same time, as a lawyer, you're sitting there going, okay, I never want to be in this position. I am never going to make this mistake. I'm anxious sitting there in the gallery watching, and I could not imagine. Maybe my brain just doesn't work like, obviously my brain doesn't work like Leibowitz's. I would be sweating bullets up there. Literally, I'd be drenched in sweat from anxiety if I had made a mistake to get myself up there. I'd be so apologetic to the judge. Judge, I will do anything you want me to do. Here's what I've done already. And Leibowitz is up there like, okay, whatever. You should just let me in the case, Judge.
Again, it's that, I would say that somebody who acts like that has this entitlement.
Yes, maybe he has financial security behind him, like you said. He comes from a wealthier family. Maybe he has. Well, if I screw up my law practice, oh well, I'll be okay.
I can go take pictures of Dad's Broadway shows. His dad produced Tootsie on Broadway, and a couple of other really big Broadway productions. He's very well known, very successable.
Remarkable.
And I'm a vocalist, and I've done musical theater my whole life. So I was
excellent.
like, Broadway producer, that's cool.
Yeah.
I geeked out on that a little bit.
How did the apple fall so far from the tree?
Yeah.
That was a big tall tree on some kind of cliff, and the apple fell and just rolled right off the cliff there. I don't want to wish bad on somebody, and I sincerely hope that Leibowitz gets his act together and turns it around, but that so far I was reading something about people who struggle with weight. Like, I gained some weight after my father passed recently, and like I'm like listening to this podcast, and it's saying, us as a society, we shouldn't have an expectation that people can just change their weight. You shouldn't have a personal expectation that you can just change your weight. Certainly, do what you want. I don't know. Can Liebowitz change his weight? Can he change his feathers? And I'm speaking metaphorically, of course.
Right.
But can he change the color of his feathers? Can he change his future fortunes? Can he grow out of this, or will his past attitudes, are they an indicator of his future performance?
Well, and I know you've said before, and I feel the same way. We're all, I think, many of your fans as well are quite surprised that he's still practicing law, right? But I used to tell my students, and I've told my kids and stuff before, like, look, here's how life works. You're taught a set of stuff, and especially as kids, you're given these rules by which you live at school and at home, to keep you from losing your mind. And that teaches you how that how that behavior feels and works. And then as you grow, the liberties are given to you. There's more freedom, because at that point we're hoping that you make the right decisions. And the way society works is that if you treat yourself and your life with integrity and make good decisions, then society basically leaves you alone and lets you do your thing, right?
Yeah.
But if you don't, if you continue to break the rules that society has to keep people here, then society's going to keep pushing in on you and keeping a closer eye on you, and sanctioning you,
yeah,
etc. And I do believe there are some people who just the way their brain works, they find it really difficult not to find the easy route, which isn't always fun. Like, taking the harder route. I want to take the easy route sometimes.
We all do.
Yeah. But I do think there are just some people who, they again, that entitlement feeling where they just feel like they should be able, but I should be able to do this. Okay. And the rest of society is like, yeah, but you can't. And they keep trying. And eventually society will slam down on you and make you stop. However, they have to do that. We haven't reached that point here. But again, if I can add a little bit on my own little case to the mounting mountain of reasoning why society needs to do that, I am happy to add my straw to that pile. But in the meantime, I'm just going to keep doing my thing, and hopefully it'll all work out.
Yeah, and we'll be following it, and we'll like I said, we'll post the GoFundMe link, and hopefully we can help you with some donations, and then maybe you'll also get your fee award, and then you'll have the high quality problem of trying to decide how
I would love to be able to, at least try to refund people's money. I really would. I mean, this is not, the purpose of the GoFundMe is not for me to make a bunch of money after the fees are paid. It's all going to go to, banks and credit cards anyway. But no, for those, well wishes, prayers, good, warm feelings, donations, all of which are accepted. And I truly, truly do appreciate, because every 2 weeks I send checks to both attorneys. And it gets a little tight sometimes, I'm not going to lie. So it certainly helps with that. And so in advance, if anybody makes a donation to that, I thank you with my deepest level of thanks. And I appreciate, Leonard, your time talking to me about this stuff. I know
excellent.
Most of the time
This is a pleasure for me to
video, but
talk about copyright. I can talk about copyright law for hours. I've always been interested in copyright. I never thought that I would eventually be a copyright attorney, and here I am practicing in a very weird part of copyright law, online file sharing cases. But so
no, that's you found your niche, and are doing cool things with it. And I think your YouTube channel is fantastic.
Thanks.
There's this, again, a little niche of people who find it fascinating to hear all about copyright trolls in general and what they do, and you tell us what's going on. So I appreciate that very much. But But thank you.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see this video when it comes out. I'll get the YouTube alert.
Definitely. It will take me probably a couple days. We just made an offer on a house.
You did. I know you were looking.
House. Yep. We found one on Sunday, which interrupted my Sunday show, and I couldn't tell anybody because I don't want to tell somebody, hey, we're looking at a house, and then we didn't find one. But we did. The Sunday one wasn't nearly what we had hoped it would be. But the one on Monday that I also did not anticipate seeing, but Kaylee found it. We went and saw it yesterday, and we more or less immediately made an offer, and they made a counter, and we agreed to a number today. And so we're going to go sign the paperwork and go for the bank loan, and then all the snowball of everything that has to happen after that, moving and insurance and utilities and all of it's in a foreign country.
All the big boy grown-up stuff.
Yeah. Well, I have a house from years ago that I'm in the middle of selling right now, but the pandemic has, of course, interrupted that because I can't be there. I can't easily fly back and forth to take care of that. I haven't even been back to the States to see Mom since Dad passed. So looking forward to all of that playing out over the next few months.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
And then over the next few days, I'll get the edit done, and I might end up releasing 2 versions of this. I might do a long edit and a short edit, so that people who want to see the short version can see the short version. People who want to get the whole feeling, because really this whole thing was really, really interesting from beginning to end. I don't know what I'm going to cut out in order to get a short version. So thank you very much for being such a great interviewee. I don't even know if we can call it an interview. You did most of the interview.
We chit-chatted. we coffee talk,
Yeah, coffee talk.
But no, I think obviously that's, since the media stuff is my training, it makes it a little easier for me to do this stuff and feel comfortable with it, and
Excellent.
But I'm also kind of a glutton for attention, and I like being able to tell everybody about this. So.
Oh yeah, definitely. While you're excited, while it's still fresh, this is great. I'm glad that you have, and it sounds like there's a release of stress too. It sounds like you're able to let go of the stress, even just the background stress of what's going to happen next. Now you have some idea of what's going to happen next. Yeah,
absolutely. No, it's okay. Well, the next step that worked out. Let's go to the next step. Hope that one works out.
One step at a time. That's all we can do. So thank you, Erin Karl. I really appreciate you meeting with me today, and
likewise.
Look forward to seeing how the rest of it plays out.
I'll let you know. See you on Twitter.
Thank you for watching. I'm Leonard French, your favorite copyright attorney, and this is Lawful Masses, your favorite legal news and education channel here on YouTube. You can also find us on Floatplane and on twitch.tv/lawfulmasses on Sunday mornings at 10 a.m. Our channel is community supported by your monthly financial contributions on patreon.com/ljfrench, sponsors.com/law, through YouTube memberships, and through Floatplane subscriptions. Thank you to the following $50 plus supporters in the month of March: Joe Tyson, John Steele, Gavin Barnard, Eevi, Spirit Bear, Andy, Benjamin Hitov, Ugly Grill, Rudolph Bescherer Jr., Brandyn Abel, Torpedan, Cassandra Curran, Sovereign Tittizen, ShadowTycho, RDHDragon, and Earthbound Star. And thank you as well to the $5 plus supporters who are scrolling on your screen. I hope everyone has a great week. I will see you in the videos that drop. I love you all. Bye.
I'm not a cat.